WSIL TV3.
It's time now for Heartland Racer. Heartland Racer, brought to you by Z-Call Racing Fuels, the choice of champions. Auto Crafters Warehouse in Harrisburg, Illinois. Illinois Corn Marketing Board of Bloomington. Jameson Auto Sales, Route 37 North in Benton. And the Checkered Flag Bar and Grill of Carbondale.
You're watching WSIL TV3.
It's time now for Heartland Racer. On today's show, drag racing from I-57 drag strip in Benton, Illinois, motocross action from Murfreesboro, and racing action from K&L Raceway in Mount Vernon, Illinois.
Hi, I'm Eve Wolf. Welcome to another edition of Heartland Racer. A lot of the fans have called in and written in saying, hey, we want to see some drag strip racing. So guess what? We're here on location, and take a look at this crowd. It's unbelievable. Well, stay tuned for a lot of smoking action coming your way on Heartland Racer. Yep, here we are out at Benton I-57 drag strip, and Heartland Racer caught up with Tom Pearce again. Tom, what do you think about today?
Well, so far so good. The weather's a little bad right now, but maybe hopefully it'll improve after a while.
Well, you're kind of a professional out here, and you've been out here quite a bit. How many times have you raced out here?
Well, I've been here for the last 3 or 4 years, but I haven't hit it too hard this year yet. This is about my 5th time here this year.
Well, it's a hot day, I tell ya. Are you used to this weather?
No, and I don't think it's going to get any better either.
How does that help the tires if it's hot?
I didn't hear you.
Does it help the tires if it's a lot of heat?
Yeah, actually, it helps the tires, but it burns everything else up. I mean, it leans your carburetor out, and they always run slower. When it cools off later tonight, everybody will pick up.
Oh, yeah? Well, I wish you lots of luck today. We'll keep our eye on you.
All right, thank you.
Stop talking about your drag racing and everything. What kind of racing do you do, or where do you race at? What kind of drag car you got?
Well, I've got a 1971 Chevelle with a big block in it. I race mostly out in Benton, Illinois at I-57 Raceway. About 3 or 4 times a year I'll go to a bigger track, say in Louisville or Indianapolis, something like that.
Well, I know you come by and you was awful interested in the ethanol blended race fuel. Z-Call is what manufacturer is manufacturing it now. What did you think about it, or what was your main interest on it?
I guess my interest in the ethanol blended fuel, or the Z-Call, was that I've got a farming background, and I understand that the ethanol blended fuel is corn-based fuel, and I just wanted to give it a try, see how it worked.
I'll tell you what, after running on it as long as you have, you run half the season last year, and then you started on this season. What did you find out about running on it?
Well, at first part of the year I was running 108 octane pump gas, and when I switched over to the ethanol with no other modifications besides jet change and timing, the car went about 1/10 faster, 60-footed faster and mile per hour faster, just with no other modifications but just changing the fuel and jets.
Yeah, well, I'm sort of new to drag racing. It's been a lot of years since I've been around it. Then 1/10 of a second don't sound like much to me, but 1/10 of a second is a lot of time in drag cars, isn't it?
Yeah, and 1/10 of a second, if you try to gain that by engine modifications, can be quite costly.
So just changing fuel, you got 1/10 of a second, so it was a little better. Through the winter and through last part of last season, you did a lot of work to your car. What all did you do, or what did you decide to do after you started going a little faster?
Well, I had the car tubbed and narrowed and had a a beefed up rear end put in it and put some aftermarket heads on it, and bumped up the ethanol a little bit more, and now I'm running a full second faster than I was last year.
Wow. And that was because, and this winter you tore down the motor too and did some work to the motor, put a new set of heads and some other stuff on the car. Why don't you tell the fans what all you did to it and what all you found out?
I took the engine apart this winter, as I guess any racer would, to freshen the engine up, bearings and rings and such. And when I got the engine apart, took the heads off, I could not believe how clean the combustion chambers were. Usually when you take your engine apart, you know, you've got carbon built up on the valves and on top of the pistons and stuff, and I was just absolutely shocked how clean that fuel burns.
Yeah, it is quite a difference. What do you think about the smell of it out there?
It's quite interesting. I've smelt ethanol cars, or methanol, I'm sorry. It's methanol burning cars, and the ethanol's, it's kind of a sweet smell, I guess you could call it. It's definitely different.
Yeah, now you went down there to, what was it, Louisville? At the end of the season. Well, wait a minute. Before we get to Louisville, what happened the last 3 or 4 weeks out here at Benton? How'd you run?
Well, the last 3 or 4 weeks of the season there, I took Super Pro Eliminator first place there the last race of the year. And prior to that, the last 4 to 5 weeks of the year there, I placed all five of the weeks.
Well, that sounds pretty good. And then after this year was up, you got the motor, this year was... Racing was over here. You did good enough to where you went to an invitational down in, what, Louisville?
Yeah, Louisville, Kentucky.
Okay, how'd you run down there?
Well, I went down with a bunch of other cars from the area, and I didn't realize we were going to make as many passes as we did. It was a 3-day race down there, and about halfway through the 3rd day, I ran out of Z-Call. And so I had to go buy some 108 octane pump gas, which I'd used earlier in the year, and with no other modifications going the other way, I ended up running about a tenth slower, and it ended up costing me.
Yeah, so you could really tell the difference between ethanol blended race fuels and the normal race fuels when you got in that circumstance.
Just what I understand about the ethanol is that it's got a higher upper cylinder BTU, and I guess, you know, it just must make more horsepower. Okay,
now this year you've already been out once this year. Okay, you've done some modification to it, you lightened the car, you did some other stuff front end. What can you tell now? How fast are you really going?
Well, the end of last season, I got down to running a 718 in the 1/8 of a mile at 96, 97 miles per hour. And first time out of the box this year, I run a 665 at 105 miles an hour.
Yeah, and maybe we'll get some of these wheel stands. You pulled a pretty good wheel stand out there, too. Maybe we'll get some of them on the air and show people what it looks like running down the track here in a little while.
Yeah, that's something that I'm going to have to get used to, I guess, unless I put some bars on the car and tie it down. But right now, it's such a thrill to do that I think I'm going to let her go for a while.
Okay. Well, what would you recommend to the guys out here racing if they can find it any place or anything else?
Well, I would sure say that it'd be well worth the... You want to do that over?
No, go ahead. Go ahead. What, I forgot what it was. Do you have any advice for everybody else out here racing if they're going to keep up with you?
Well, I don't know about keeping up with me because there's some pretty heavy hitters out there, but I would say, you know, that it'd be worth anybody's while to try the Z-Call fuel because it sure has worked for me, and I'm going to continue to use it.
Okay. Well, I sure appreciate it a bunch. And Tom, thanks a lot. And a lot of good luck this year.
Thank you.